Hey everybody, welcome to Cara's Cucina and to 2021. I cannot believe we are starting the year off like this. My special guest today is none other than Lidia Bastianich. Obviously, because we are still operating with the coronavirus pandemic going on, Lidia was kind enough to give me some time and do an interview with me via Zoom. Guys, I am so excited about my guest this week, none other than Lidia Bastianich. I cannot believe that I am sitting here talking to you. I have to say, Lidia, I'm so honored. I feel like, we're not worthy. It's so exciting for me.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me on. And we're going to have a good time.
We are, for sure. So we are here to talk about your upcoming PBS special, Lidia Celebrates America. Can you kind of just briefly tell me a little bit about the special and what it's about?
Sure. I have my own cooking show, Lidia's Kitchen, on PBS, and it's over 20 years that's been airing. But in addition to that, I do this 1 hour special, which sort of airs around Christmas holidays. This year, given all of this, is going to air in January. Last year, before all of this pandemic stuff happened, we thought, I thought that our first responders, whether it's the firemen, whether it's the ambulance driver, whether it is the hospital workers, the cops, all of these, I felt, are these people really getting recognized enough? Do we thank them enough? These are the people that put their life on the line every single time they go out there so they can keep us safe. And I said, food is always a good way to say thank you. And I said, we decided that we are going to go around and meet with these people, cook with them and discuss and ultimately bring them forth and give them the credit that they deserve. Usually when I do this filming, I go and I travel. I travel to the different places and meet these people. Needless to say, this year it was all via internet like you and I are doing it once it came up. But you know what? It worked out okay. So this year I have these 5 wonderful different groups of first responders that we followed, that we kind of that I interviewed and we talked, and I wanted to know, what drives these people, and also what energizes them, what gives them kind of fortitude, if you will, physical fortitude, but also emotional. And of course, that is food.
Yeah, of course it is. And Lidia, I just wanted to ask you, how have you personally been faring through all of this, through the pandemic? And, obviously we're both in production. It's impacted that. Restaurants have had a dramatic impact. You own several. What has your kind of personal take been on this?
Well, certainly the economical part, the business part, the restaurants and all the people that we had to let go, that weighs very heavily. On a personal note, I am now in my home. You've seen my home, and my mother, who is going to be 100 on January 23rd, lives with me. So my mother and my father have always lived. This is the Italian way, Grandma's here with me. I cook for her. I take care of her, and watch out that she doesn't catches anything. And it's been hard in a sense, being locked up when you're used to meeting people every night and talking with people, and that you have that kind of energy coming into you. Not to have it, it's like sometimes I have my lulls up and down. I think nature is such a lifter, at least to me. Being in touch with nature and seeing things grow, one says, this is the amazing of that. Some dirt, a little bit of dirt, can produce this wonderful tomatoes, this wonderful eggplants, and they're coming alive. They were growing, so you sensed life in this kind of difficult times and lots of deaths. Having vegetables and all that grow sort of encourages and sort of assures you that there is life coming.
Yes, absolutely. And I think for any Italian American, as an Italian American grandkid, I always remember my grandfather too, had this little patch of dirt, behind their house, but the man could make anything grow in that little 4x4 square.
Isn't that amazing? That, yeah. But how about you, Cara? Do you have your own little garden?
I do. I have my little pots up on my porch in my apartment. Yes. So I do have a little something that I always get some tomatoes and some fresh herbs out of, for sure.
I encourage everybody, because even especially in these times, certainly we all find ourselves cooking,
Yes.
but growing and having little plants on the windowsill is also the same discussion. Life happens, life continues.
Yes, absolutely. So Lydia, I want to ask you what, just to go back to the special, what made you want to pick these men and women and these stories to tell? Why, because I think if I'm reading this correctly, you guys kind of came up with this idea just prior to the pandemic starting, and it just, serendipity.
Before we had this idea, I just wanted to visit with these first responders, and I wanted a way to thank them. Also because I know the firemen always cook. They have their own little kitchen. The EMS have their own little kitchen. And so this amazed me that these people, that they go out and their life is on the line, they come back and they start cooking. The hospitals kind of came in a big way after the pandemic. You saw how these nurses, these aides, these doctors, really in the midst of it, they were all there. They left their family at home, went in to save lives. It was amazing. It was just amazing.
And I just want to touch on two of them briefly, because I really, as I was reading through, they really struck me. So I loved the story of Mr. McNamara, who responded for 9/11 and then now has become a chef.
Food for him is a healer. And he said, Lydia, I went to 9/11 this trying to save lives, hoping to find lives. And what it really ended up is pulling out cadavers and people that, and he said, just after a while, he just couldn't take it anymore. It was kind of the end. And so his wife actually had the wisdom to put him in a cooking school, give him that as a gift. And, he just loves it now. He has written a cookbook, and it's his medicine. Food is his medicine.
It so is. And it actually, it's kind of fun. It reminds me of a quote that I'd actually heard from a TV show recently. It was saying how the character also had gone through some trauma and said, I started cooking, and when I read the recipe and I followed the instructions, suddenly things started turning out the way they were supposed to. And I just thought that was such a great metaphor for life and cooking. It's like when it's chaos around you, you can just, know that olive oil and onion and carrots and celery is going to start something wonderful.
Exactly. In every sense of the way, smell, looks, taste. And then what, Cara, the beauty of cooking food is that you're sharing, that you're giving. Giving food is giving love, caring for somebody, wanting to nurture somebody, physically, give them all the vitamins and everything, but also emotionally, because, as you said, you're talking about your grandfather. Food brings you back to a place and time that, it's dear to you, that you were in a special place with that food. And so that brings it back, the aromas. I think, it happened to everybody, I'm sure, that all of a sudden you whiff an aroma and it takes you to a place that you almost had forgotten about. So this is the power, the inner power that really food gives you in every single way.
Absolutely. The other story I love, and just because I'm a Jersey girl, born and raised myself, I loved the two sisters from City.
That was very, let's see, what's the Francesca and Cani Zappella. And I asked them, I said, here you are, you have a family at home, and you are beckoned to this burning house. The flames are shooting out. What possesses you to go towards the flame and into the house?
And run away.
Yes. She said, there's something stronger than us, this need to resolve the situation, to see if we can save somebody.
I love that. That is so incredible. And then one of the other things that the special touches on, and if you can tell me about it a little bit, is this Operation Gratitude. And they send out care packages to our military people, correct?
Operation Gratitude does sends care packages to our veterans all over the world, but also to our local first line responders. And in the packages, of course, they put, some sweets, some this, some that, but some toiletries, but also they welcome very much written letters from viewers. So people out there, if they can write notes, 10 of them.
But what role did you find that food played across all of these stories, where, we talked about the firefighters cook and the EMS guys cook and things like that, and they're getting these care packages. What was kind of the overarching theme of food through this?
It was the ultimate connector, the common denominator that, tied them amongst themselves, and also the tie with me. You could enter into a conversation, at least for me, with all of these people that have, way different jobs and positions than I do. But food kind of brings us all to a same level. And I always say, sitting down at the table, eating each other's food, is such a congenial place to be. It's a place where you can open conversation. That's why families is so important, that they sit together and they have a meal together. I know it's difficult every day or whatever, but whatever you can, sit down, because something magical happens when there's food there that nurtures you, and that somebody has cooked with love for you, and you're sharing it. You share much more than that food.
That is so true. And I love that you say that food is your love language, because food is also my love language. So why, in the theme of all that, and in that spirit, was it so important for you to share that your breakfast risotto recipe, and to actually bring some to some of these first responders at Holy Name Medical Center?
They're not too far, because some of the other ones were in California and here. So I cooked that, and I kind of messengered it over. It's just to give them sort of a lit, because when you eat somebody's food, with that food comes, as you said before, love and a message, but it comes also a sensibility. You almost seem to get to know that person through their food, and so I wanted to connect with them because of this not being possible to see. I wanted to connect with them with food, so I sent them these little jars of breakfast which they had, and it made me happy when they sent me when we Zoomed and I saw them enjoying it, and they were grateful.
It was, and I have to say, so I had the opportunity to test out the recipe, go for a test run. It is delicious.
Isn't it good?
It's so good. We had it for breakfast this morning, actually. But can you tell me a little bit about the history of that recipe? I think you got it from a family member.
It's my grandmother, in the morning, because my grandmother, she lived out in a little town, and they were farmers. In a sense, they were producing food to feed the family, not real big farmers. So they had the field of corn, the field of wheat. They had olive trees. They made the wine. They had some grapes, not big amounts, but enough for the family. We had chickens, we had pigs, and whatever. And this all required work. And so, depending on the season, in the morning, sometimes the workers would come early. And so here you are, you have 15 people there waiting to eat something. What do? So she would whip up this big pot of risotto rice, which is the starch, because, or bread or toast, but the rice is the starch. And within that, the bacon and the egg, all the elements of a breakfast, the proteins. And so she would put this big pot on the table, and everybody would get a plateful, and they would kind of feel satiated and full of energy to go out and plow and whatever they did.
I love that. I think that's such an incredible story. And I think, we had discussed this as well. I know for me, anytime I can get my kitchen to start smelling like my grandmother's kitchen, I know I'm doing something right.
Yes, and that's so important, and I always say that food is tells us who we are. So it is so important to transcend these recipes from generation to generation, for mothers to cook with children, with grandchildren, so that they would remember.
Lydia, thank you so much. Once again, guys, the special is Lidia Celebrates America. It airs January 29th at 9 p.m. on your local PBS station, and we will certainly get you some more information about it in the description below. Lidia Bastianich, once again, I am a lifelong fan. I am so honored to be talking to you face to face. I hope to be talking to you one day, truly face to face. We'll have to have you back in what we refer to as the Cucina here. But again, thank you so much for your inspiration. You're always gracious, and I am looking forward to seeing the full special.
Thank you. My pleasure, Cara. E tanti auguri, and go ahead, forge ahead. You're doing a great job.
Thank you. Grazie mille. Tanti auguri, Lidia. Grazie.
Auguri, prego.
So Lidia was kind enough to share her breakfast risotto recipe with me, and I am now going to share that with you. So this is the dish that she brings to the first responders at the end of her PBS special. And again, you can catch that on PBS January 29th. We'll include all the information in the description below. But her recipe, I think this is so great. I love the idea of a risotto for breakfast or brunch. If you've never had basically any combination of rice and eggs before, I highly recommend it. It all goes really well together. Her recipe sounds amazing. So I have our ingredients here. So we've got some slab cut bacon that I just cubed up, olive oil, white wine, 1 onion and 1 bell pepper chopped, about 1.5 cups of arborio rice. And again, as always, when we make a risotto, we want to use the proper grain of rice. So a regular white or brown rice won't give you the same consistency that an arborio rice is generally the easiest one to find. There's 2 other grains, cannaroli works as well. The third one really doesn't make it to the US very easily. So, but just look for one of these. It's a short grain white rice. We've also got 2 eggs. We're not quite ready for these just yet, and some scallion. And then with any risotto, the first thing you want to do, whatever your cooking liquid is going to be, and in this case, it is going to be just some vegetable stock for us. We're going to get that over medium heat, and we want that to be warm because we don't want to slow the cooking process as we add it into the risotto. And I'm also going to preheat my main pan here. Not my cutting board. Okay. And once this is warm, we're going to start by rendering the fat out of our bacon. Our pan is nice and warm, so I'm going to add in our olive oil. And we're going to get these bacon pieces in here, and we just want them to start to release their fat and crisp up, so it's going to take about 3 or 4 minutes. I love how Lidia says that food is her love language. So this dish was her way of kind of showing her respect and her love and her appreciation for all of our first responders throughout 2020 and what was, of course, an extremely difficult year for everyone. But I love that she kind of did this, responded in her own way, and that she's sharing it with us. Now that our bacon is starting to crisp up a little bit, we're going to add in those onions and peppers. And these are just going to soften up for about another 3 minutes. We can kind of start to get some of those brown bits off the bottom of the pan as well. And this already smells amazing. It smells like the perfect breakfast dish. Just bacon, onion, bell pepper. It screams for eggs. It's going to be perfect. Now that we have our onions and peppers softened a little bit, we're going to add in our rice grains. So again, anytime you're making a risotto, you want to toast your rice grains a little bit, and any of these flavors, risotto's a great dish because you can make it whatever you want. Any of these flavors that are initially in the pan, whatever's in with that fat, that's really what's going to flavor your rice. So we're going to get these in here. They're going to start to absorb that oil. You can see a lot of the oil went right into the rice grains already. And that's really where it's going to get most of its flavor from. And then let me see if I can find some here. Oh, not quite yet. So once they start to get a little opaque around the edges, let's see if I can find a nice one for you. Here we go. So we'll go with this one right here. So you see it kind of has a little dot in the center. It's opaque around the edges. That means the rice is now toasted, it's absorbed most of the oil that it's going to get, and we can start adding liquid to the pan to begin cooking it. So we're, again, that's kind of what you're looking for in terms of toasting your rice grains. And the first bit of liquid that we're going to add is actually a little bit of white wine. So again, we can really use that, kind of finish scraping up any brown bits that stuck to the pan. That's all good flavor. We want that in our dish. And once that gets absorbed, now we're gonna start adding in our warm stock. And again, this is why we started heating it from the beginning of making our dish. We can actually even see a little bit of steam coming off of it. So we know it's nice and hot. So I know that when I add that to my risotto, it's not gonna be cold and then have to heat up and slow down the cooking process. It's gonna be the same temperature as the rice, and it's just gonna continue cooking it, and the rice is gonna continue to absorb all that liquid. And that's what makes risotto have that nice creamy texture that we all love and are familiar with, or if you're not familiar with, it has that creamy texture. You really don't necessarily have to add butter or cheese. You can truly make risotto a completely vegetarian, even a vegan dish if you're so inclined, because that texture comes from the rice grain versus adding in butter and cheese. Okay, so our rice is looking a little bit dry, so now we're gonna add in some of that nice hot vegetable stock. So we want to put in just around a cup, or about 3 ladles. The risotto doesn't take very long to cook through, and much like your pasta, you want your rice to be al dente, so it should still have some texture to it, some bite. It shouldn't be mushy, it shouldn't be like baby food. So we're gonna just let this cook slowly. You do kind of want to stand here and keep moving it around, so it does require that you hang out at the stove for about 20 to 30 minutes. But it really is only gonna take about another 15 minutes at this point to cook to that al dente point. We're just gonna stand here, keep stirring it, keep an eye on it. When it looks dry, add in some more of that warm stock. Okay, once again, we've been stirring our risotto. We see that it's starting to dry out. There's not a lot of liquid in there, so now we're gonna add in some more of that warm stock. And we're just gonna continue with this process again for about 15 minutes, just until that rice is al dente. And in the meantime, once I get this stirred in and going, I'm gonna scramble up those eggs. While our risotto finishes cooking, I'm gonna get the eggs ready to add. So we've got 2 eggs scrambled, and we're gonna add in some of this hot stock. So just about a cup again. There we go. Get these mixed. Little pinch of salt. And this is going into our risotto. And you can kind of already see we're just gonna get these little like wisps, as Lidia writes, of scrambled eggs throughout this, which I love. That actually kind of reminds me of my nonny's pastina soup recipe, which I'll put in the card above for those of you on YouTube. And that was always kind of what she did as well, was just kind of made those little wisps of eggs in with her soup. So in this case, I like that it's in the risotto too. To finish up Lidia's risotto, we're gonna add in 3 scallions that I chopped up. These are just gonna go in for a minute till they start to wilt. Look at this looks beautiful. It smells amazing. I'm still working on the smell-o-vision, guys. And of course, like all of Lidia's dishes, we're gonna finish up with a little grated cheese. Put this right in there. Serve your risotto with an extra sprinkle of grated Parmesan cheese. Guys, as always, the recipe is going to be available at caradifalco.com. Please check out Lidia's new special, Lidia Celebrates America. That's going to be aired January 29th on your local PBS station, so be sure to look for that. I'll hook you guys up with a link in the description below. cannot thank Lidia Bastianich enough for being my guest this week. I was so excited to be talking to her about food, about first responders, about her new special. Thank you so much for sharing this recipe with us. That is it for this week in the Cucina. Guys, check me out Facebook and Instagram at Cara Di Falco. I will see you next time. Buon appetito.